Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining us this Thursday for Thursday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first on the warning and watch advisory graphic, we've got winter weather advisories out here over the central northern panhandle. Doesn't look like it includes the Klondike Highway up the Skagway, but to the south here, continued snow into this evening until 9 p.m. this evening. Look for several more inches in these areas. Otherwise, the high wind warning will end here by Thursday evening here for the eastern Aleutians Alaska Peninsula as those strong winds continue to slowly diminish. And looking at the satellite imagery here for today, we had this low tracking southward coming right across the Alaska Peninsula. High pressure back out to the west that produced some really strong winds here from the Pribilof Islands that saw St. Paul seeing gusts to about 70 miles an hour earlier today and late last night. Those are gradually coming down. Now they're in the 40 to 50 mile per hour range in the mid-afternoon hours here on Thursday. And strongest wind gusts that I saw was 86 miles an hour at Unalaska Dutch Harbor this afternoon, while over the Alaska Peninsula, both Cold Bay and King Cove picking up gusts to 75 miles per hour. Colder air dropping the snowfall levels down to about sea level here for the peninsula. Back to the Pribilof rain, mix of snow going on over the eastern Aleutians, but amounts are on the light side. Otherwise, off to the east here, got this system that's spread the snow and mixed rain and snow in across the southeast coast. Anywhere from 4 to 7 inches roughly falling with this system. And again, those advisories out until 9 p.m. this evening over the northern areas. But a lot of clouds and moisture back to the west, so that'll be slow to end precipitation-wise later tonight. Some of that sneaking up into the eastern interior or right into the Northway area there. And a few flurries up into the Tanana Valley, and those extending southwestward to and west of the northern Alaska range. Otherwise, a lot of clouds here over the interior areas. Another system up there just west of the central Arctic coast producing gusty winds and blowing snow along the western coast there. And a break here, strong high pressure out and just with the center south of the central Aleutians. Not a lot going on out here. Another big storm moving into the Sea of Okhotsk, spreading some cirrus in through the far western Aleutians, and actually something of a warm front right through here. Some of that moisture already beginning to slide off to the southeast in toward the Pribilof Islands. Otherwise, there's that low up there along the Arctic coast, seeing gusts as high as 50 miles per hour at Point Lay. Otherwise, kind of a 25 to 35 mile per hour wind regime with this, much lighter on the east side there, but breezy conditions down across Kotzebue Sound and the Chukchi Sea there, and diminishing winds here from the Seward Peninsula into St. Lawrence Island. So a little bit of light snow going on there with some clouds. And again, the flurries here from the Tanana Valley around the greater Fairbanks area, very light, down to about Denali there, but south and east of the mountains, lots of clearing skies today, and that gradient tightening up here. Again, this low pressure area weakening into a trough, but swinging southward. You can see quite a gradient coming across with that, and those strong winds with the rain and snowfall levels falling, with the colder air coming in behind. So that's just about down to sea level here across the Alaska Peninsula. Otherwise, here's the snow and rain mixed down along Prince of Wales Island up to about Port Alexander, Sitka. Otherwise, mostly snow to the north and to the east there towards Stewart and Hyder, becoming more showery here, scattered snow showers into the southeast interior, North Gulf Coast area, right back down into Kodiak Island. Seeing some snow this afternoon, and then the blowing snow up there in the western Arctic coast, and areas of light snow extending eastward there across the over on the Kaktovik area, and also possibly here over the north slope there, but not much really south of the Brooks Range. And the forecast for tonight, we'll see this front pushes in. That's going to keep it wet over the southern areas. Actually, rain and snow continue just about all across the Panhandle tonight with that slow-moving system. And look for the winds to start to increase here, especially over the eastern North Gulf Coast. Now you can see quite a gradient here between the Arctic high to the north and this low to the south, so the line's really tightening up here. And where the lines are closest together, that's where the winds blow the strongest. And so gap winds on the increased Copper River Delta coming up significantly for Prince William Sound. Valdez, look for some good increase in the winds there, as well as say Resurrection Bay, Seward, up into maybe Passage Canal. Windier, definitely across Kodiak Island, but drying out. Those northwest winds will probably blow those showers out to the southeast, and it'll keep them banked up along the western side of the Alaska Range here into Kachemak Bay. Big increase in the winds there. Southern Cook Inlet, same thing. And light wind conditions with some clearing. Temperatures well below zero over the eastern interior tonight, maybe down to 35 below possibly. And then the snow and clouds keeping it milder up there along the Arctic coast and North Slope areas. And some of this might slip on down into the Kobuk Valley, otherwise just some scattered snow showers on the very light side from Selawik down across the Seward Peninsula and then scattered on down to Bristol Bay. You can see the gradient a little less now. Winds slowly coming down again, much lighter there for the eastern Aleutians, and that trend will also exist there for the Alaska Peninsula throughout the night. And now we're looking at some of this moisture coming up over the top of the ridge with what was a warm front, now more or less just a boundary, and that'll probably bring some milder conditions, rain and snow showers, or just rain and snow on the light side there occasionally for the Pribilof Islands. Some snow slip on into the Nunivak Island area and possibly continue the chance there on the St. Lawrence Island zone, but winds pretty light up there. Fair conditions, high pressure, strong high pressure, 1,042 millibars, the center. So look for a possible clearing here, extending from Nikolsky all the way out to actually to Shimianat and then this system way out here to the west. That'll be weakening. That front will be pushing eastward, but weakening as it goes, and center even really weakening as it pulls northward. So that'll spread some good rain and fog with lower flying conditions into the western Aleutians, sliding eastward to about Adak, roughly tomorrow afternoon, with higher pressure in advance, and then this band of moisture right through here. More or less warm front type moisture with rain, fog, snow. Milder conditions, could be just flat out rain, western Alaska Peninsula back up to the Pribilofs, but ending over the Pribilofs. Could get a pretty nice afternoon, dry anyway with much lighter winds. Still a little breezy here across the peninsula, but nothing like today. And those winds will even begin to decrease slowly in the afternoon for Kodiak Island. Otherwise, cold weather, maybe some flurries, scattered snow showers here over the southwest interior, and again, right up and along and north or west of the Alaska Range. Clear skies to the south, gusty winds continuing. And again, still looks like periods of snow going on there for much of the southeast coast tomorrow. That'll be bucking those northeast winds, so not too heavy on the amounts up here. And looks pretty good up over the eastern interior as well. Still areas of snow now, that trough, keeping it mostly continuous up there over the eastern Arctic coast, North Slope. Again, getting down to the Brooks Range. South of there, nothing, but lowest flying conditions will be on back to the north. Outlook for Saturday, much clearer, cold temperatures here over just about all of interior Alaska. Maybe some clouds lingering up there along and north of the eastern Alaska, or eastern Brooks Range, but pretty good all the way down. Still a little breezy, some outflow winds, Copper River Delta into northern Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay in those areas, maybe in the Stevens Passage. Quite a gradient now over the northern southeast coast. Much less of one with that ridge axis coming across first Bristol Bay, shifting in Kodiak Island. Could be just a mostly sunny day with pretty light winds there for much of Kodiak Island up into southern Cook Inlet. And looks like this moisture with this system, at least initially through Saturday afternoon, will stay south of the area. So just look for mostly cloudy skies, scattered showers of rain or snow across the southeast coast. And now this system pulling northeastward here. Warmer air, so rain, maybe some wind from the eastern Aleutians or central Aleutians into the eastern Aleutians and Bristol Bay. Milder southerly winds, of course, trending that precipitation type to mix with rain here spreading northward. From there, north though from St. Lawrence Island, flat out snow, and then some more showery activity coming in behind. So looking at lows for tonight, for Friday morning, 20-25 below. Could be colder in some areas for the eastern northeast or the Yukon Flats here. Again, depending on your cloud cover, and well below zero all the way into the Copper River Basin. Single numbers to near zero, so Sitna Valley, northern Cook Inlet. 20s to upper 30s over the Panhandle, upper 30s eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula. And not too bad, mid-20s all the way up to St. Lawrence Island, and then back down into the teens. Highs tomorrow afternoon, below zero from the Copper River Basin, right up to the eastern North Slope there, or the Brooks Range, and then lower 20s on the western coast. Near 30 for the northern Bering Sea, near freezing for the southwest coast, Bristol Bay in the 20s, lower 40s, Alaska Peninsula warming to the upper 40s over the eastern Aleutians, and upper 20s northern Panhandle warming to the lower to mid 40s over the southern areas, teens south central Alaska, and give or take either side of zero for the Tanana Valley. And then lows for Saturday morning, 25 to 32 below over the Yukon Flats again, near zero eastern Arctic coast, a little above on the west side. And generally a little cooler now along the southwest coast, lower 20s, single numbers over Bristol Bay, pretty mild out there over the Aleutians, lows in the mid or the lower 40s, and teens northern southeast coast to lower 30s to the south. And then the highs Saturday afternoon, 30s here over the southern Panhandle to near 20 in the north, but again below zero, the same trend, coldest in the east, mildest here off to the west, and in the 40s over the Aleutians.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving into flying weather, IFR along and north of the Alaska Range, back over the northern Kuskokwim Valley, Tanana Valley, and then on down to the southeast. South of the mountains, though, VFR looking good. Cook Inlet, the Sitna Valley, Copper River Basin, right down into Prince William Sound, Kodiak Island, and Bristol Bay. From the Alaska Peninsula, you can see marginal VFR back to the northwest, covering the Pribilofs, and then back in over just about all of interior Alaska on up to the Arctic coast. And you hit the IFR again from the Brooks Range on out to the Arctic coast. VFR, much of the Aleutians, some marginal VFR out west. Marginal VFR for the southeast coast, kind of improving as you head south toward Dixon Entrance. And by the afternoon on Friday, about the same down there, marginal VFR from Dixon Entrance northward into Canada, with some IFR likely here over the along the eastern border there, mostly over the central and southern areas. Marginal VFR along the Alaska Range and north here, but the IFR becoming less widespread tomorrow afternoon. Still hanging on over here, Northway Tok, and a little bit there around Denali. Otherwise, marginal VFR up across 40 Mile Country, VFR breaking out the Koyukuk Valley, back to the west to Kotzebue, with marginal VFR over the Seward Peninsula, but the south coast there, Nome, looking pretty good tomorrow afternoon, and possibly marginal at times St. Lawrence Island. IFR hanging on to the west central Arctic coast and North Slope, with another band of IFR into the western Aleutians, VFR in advance of that, marginal VFR across the Alaska Peninsula to the Pribilofs of St. Matthew Island. And for Saturday morning, that area advances eastward and actually expands now from Adak on in, approaching Nikolsky in the morning hours Saturday, northward, staying west, just starting to move into the Pribilofs there, a narrow band of marginal VFR, Nunivak Island across the peninsula. Pretty good here again, southern Alaska, band of marginal VFR again along and north of the Alaska Range, but all the way into the Yukon Delta. Marginal here for the southeast coast, as well as the areas up there to the north. Saturday afternoon, really improving up there for the North Slope and Arctic coast. Some marginal VFR yet, west central coastal areas. Really nice over the interior, mostly VFR just about everywhere. More widespread marginal conditions there for the Panhandle. And IFR holding along and off the coast here, but just catching Nunivak Island into the Pribilofs, south across the eastern Aleutians, back out to about Adak, and then the Bristol Bay area, Kodiak looking pretty good with VFR. Anaktuvik tomorrow for Friday's pass forecast. Anaktuvik and Adigan, marginal VFR at times. Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR. Lowest conditions will be on the western approaches, and for rainy, actually that could be IFR in that western entrance, otherwise marginal. And for windy, IFR possible north side, marginal through the pass, and then VFR to the south. That same pattern holds also for Isabel as well as Mentasta. With Tanita, or VFR tomorrow, Portage good as well, wide open. Chilcoot and White, IFR becoming marginal into the afternoon. And for the freezing levels at the surface here, right along the coastline, 2,000 feet over the southern panhandle, and then also from about the eastern Aleutians, but much warmer air mass out here over the western Aleutian areas and southwest Bering, 8 to 10,000 feet. And as far as icing goes, areas of light to very isolated, considerable moderate rime icing below or above 11,000 feet. Above about 8 or 6,000 here of just some scattered areas of light icing possible, possibly mixed. Also up here on the north slope, and could be some up here along the Alaska Range. And also for the panhandle, it could probably be a little more widespread through here. That'd be mostly just light rime above 4,000 feet. And the jet stream, cold trough here from the Arctic right on down into the Gulf of Alaska, and ridging up over the Bering Sea in between the two features there. Good northerly, northwesterly jet sailing southward here right along the west coast up to 130 knots across the panhandle, or I'm sorry, across the Alaska Peninsula. 55 to 60 knot winds accompanying that at 9,000 feet, lighter there for the southeast coast, and 40 to 50 on the west side of the ridge. 3,000 feet, same pattern, 35 to 40 knots out there. Up and over northwest, 30 to 50 across eastern Bering, Bristol Bay, 50 to 60 Kodiak Island. And for turbulence, look for widespread moderate chop here below 5,000 feet for the Panhandle, North Gulf Coast, back down across Cook Inlet, Kodiak Island, along and south of the Alaska Peninsula.
Staying up late with Orion. Hey there, stargazers. I'm James Albury, director of the Kika Silva Pla Planetarium in Gainesville, Florida.
And I'm Dean Regas, astronomer from the Cincinnati Observatory, and we're here to help you find your way around the sky. Winter is still a few weeks away, but that doesn't mean you can't see the stars and constellations of winter a little early.
That's right, Dean. You just have to stay up a little later at night to see them rise above the eastern horizon. And there's one constellation that's Mr. Winter, the guy with the belt of 3 stars, one of the easiest star patterns to identify in the sky.
We're talking Orion the Hunter. There's just something about the arrangement of his stars that make you imagine a giant hunter standing in the sky with his arm raised up, not to mention 3 stars that make his snazzy belt.
Orion is usually best seen in January and February, but if you stay up past your bedtime this month, you can get a preview.
Let's show you. Okay, we have our skies set for any night in later November at 7 p.m. facing east. Do you see Orion up there?
Not yet, but I do see signs in the sky that he will soon be making an appearance. You see that little group of stars about 1/3 of the way up in the sky?
Yeah, they look like a really small dipper, a dinky dipper.
Yes, they're actually the 7 sisters, the open cluster of stars that were said to be Orion's loves. There's one slight problem. The sisters didn't like him at all.
Ouch. And that means that just below the 7 sisters is Taurus the Bull. You can recognize him by his orange bullseye star Aldebaran and the stars around it making a small V-shaped pattern. His long horns point down and to the left.
When you see Taurus coming up, that means Orion isn't far behind. Let's advance our time about half an hour at a time. Slowly but surely, new stars rise up in the east, and by 9 or 9:30 p.m., Orion will have completely cleared the trees, and he'll be appearing to lean on one side. However, just look for his belt of 3 stars, and you know you found him.
Cool. But I thought you said we'd have to stay up late. 9:30 p.m. isn't too bad.
True, but to see Orion at his best, when he's highest in the sky, well, we'll have to face south after midnight.
Oh, goody.
Okay, we're facing south and it's now 1:30 a.m. Is that late enough for you, Dean?
Oh, now this is my time of night.
You can now find Orion about halfway up in the sky, seeming to lord over all creation. His belt is stylishly slanted a bit, but it's unmistakable in the night sky.
Orion's brightest stars are Rigel, that marks his left leg, and Betelgeuse, that stands in for his,
You can say it.
His armpit. Yes, I know that may be gross, but that's what Betelgeuse means. Armpit of the central one. And it definitely fits the picture.
Orion's other shoulder is a beautiful blue star called Bellatrix, and his right leg can be made with a dimmer star called Saiph. But don't forget about his head. The dim star Misa up there marks that.
Hey, are you calling Orion dim?
I would never do such a thing. But his head star sure is.
One final thing to look for with Orion is the sword hanging from his belt. There are 3 stars there that are much fainter than his belt, but sometimes you can see them. The middle star in the sword is no star at all.
It's actually the Orion Nebula, a great cloud of cosmic dust that is making new stars. It's basically a huge star factory. Through a telescope, you can see its cloudy nature and even some of the stars the nebula manufactured. So tonight, try to view one of the easiest star patterns, Orion the Hunter.
By 9 or 9:30 p.m., he will have completely cleared the horizon. But if you want to see him at his best, stay up past midnight and look for him standing up higher in the southern sky like this.
You can get a preview of the winter sky even in November if you keep looking up.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Today's sea ice analysis looking something like this. Not a lot of change here, but still gradually edging westward here up off the north coast there, and otherwise slow increases here at Kotzebue Sound. And the best chance of seeing any significant ice increases would be, of course, up here where the water temperatures are right at that point it could freeze at any time, and then to a lesser extent, of course, down to the south. And moving on to the marine forecast, small craft advisory, south 30, gust 45 on the south coast tomorrow, 16-foot seas. Good gales up in the north coast, they're right out of the east, possibly gusts to 50 knots. And winds in the increase here, northern Lynn Canal, 35 knots, 7-foot seas, southeast 25, Stevens Passage, swinging around more southerly for Clarence Strait. Outlook for Saturday, southeast 25 there for Clarence Strait, and south 25 here for the south coast, a little lighter up to the north, and then east, again, good gales out of the east here for the entire north coast, with gusts now 50 to 55 knots. Northerlies gusting to 50 knots in northern Lynn Canal with gale force winds. Northerlies now 25 for Stevens Passage. And for Prince William Sound, north 35 knots tomorrow, 7-foot seas, higher gusts, northern bays, 40-knot winds here for the North Gulf Coast, increased to 45 to northwest 45 for the Kachemak Bay, or for the Barren Islands back to Kachemak Bay. 35-knot gales in the forecast for all of Cook Inlet. And then for Saturday, those come down to 25 knots there for Cook Inlet, northwest 30, diminishing into the afternoon, coming down under gales there at Kachemak Bay, north 35 for the Barrens. Small craft advisories for the North Gulf Coast and Prince William Sound. And Kodiak tomorrow, tonight and tomorrow, northwest 45 across the island there from Shelikof Strait. Storm warnings through tomorrow here from Sitkinak to Castle Cape, back down to 45 on the south side of the peninsula, 40 knots out of the northwest on the north side, and 35 for Bristol Bay. And for Saturday, still have some gales here on the east side of Kodiak, otherwise coming down Shelikof Strait 25 knots, and northwest diminishing to 30, Sitkinak, Castle Cape, swinging around to the southeast at 30 across the Alaska Peninsula, 7 to 10-foot seas, and the winds, looks like the biggest decrease will be over Bristol Bay, coming down northeast 20. And for eastern Aleutians, tomorrow, again, Unalaska Island, seeing those northwesterlies 30 knots, lighter back to the west, just to the west, turning southwest, and then swinging around to the south, Adak Yatka coming up 30 to 35 with gales from the southeast on out to the west. And then those swing around to the northwest and then north at 25 to 30 on Saturday. with west-northwest, 25-30 knots. Small cat advisories there for the central Aleutians, 13 feet for those sea heights on the Pacific side of the zones. And then southwest, 30 to 35, turn kind of more southerly there across Unalaska Island, but still look for some gale force winds with 9 to 15-foot seas. And for the southwest coast, gales south of Nunivak Island, 35 knots, but diminishing on up to the north, just 15 for St. Lawrence Island. And westerlies 25 for the Pribilofs, a tad higher for St. Matthew Island. Outlook for Saturday, those come up significantly there to 40 knots for St. Matthew Island, southeast 30. The Pribilofs into the southwest coast with gales from Nunivak Island up to St. Lawrence Island with 10 to 14-foot seas. Kind of a variable wind direction here along the Arctic coast. East side, east-northeast 15 to 20, turning north 15 on the central coast, northwest 20 until you get to Cape Beaufort, and then from there south to Wales, you got northwest 25 with 9-foot seas. And the next day swings around to the southeast, coming up a little bit here, 30 to 35 knots with the gales from Cape Thompson to Cape Beaufort. Then back down to 20 on the west side, even lighter there for the central coast 15, and just barely a breeze out of the west on the eastern coastline. For tonight, again, this front bringing snow. Got snow advisories out for the central and northern panhandle, 4 to 8 inches, beginning at 9 p.m. this evening and continuing on at least through tomorrow. And of course, the rainfall down to the south, Prince of Wales Island. Snow anywhere else, maybe a mix in places, but increasing winds here across the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, Kenai Peninsula, Cook Inlet, and Kodiak Island, with that gradient shifting eastward. Winds diminishing here for the Alaska Peninsula. The lose the warnings into with lighter winds, even lighter back to the north, with some moisture slipping over the top of that ridge. Snow, blowing snow on the west side, gradually diminishing. And see lose a wind, but areas of light snow continuing up there, and then a band of moisture right through here, sliding southeastward. The next front pushing into the western Aleutians. Still rain and snow, mostly snow over the panhandle, and that diminishes there on, let's see, Saturday. Thank you for joining us.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.